Good morning, and welcome to the Universalist Church. It's on. Good morning. How's that? Good morning. All right. Good morning, and welcome to the Universalist Church, in which love is the spirit. We are glad you are here in the sanctuary or anywhere in the world, especially those visiting or returning after a time away. I am Mike Zanta, one of your co-moderators on our Board of Trustees. If you are a visitor, we hope you'll talk with our welcome team or visit our webpage, westhartforduu.org, to learn more about us. Our guest book or online contact page will help you get onto our electronic mailing list. Our electronic communications are the best way for us to stay connected. We look forward to helping you become part of the Universalist Church. We're in the seasons of colds, flus, and COVID, though the risk of severe illness is considered low. If you are unvaccinated or would prefer a mask, our ushers have some that we're happy to share.
Thank you, Mike. So today we have a bunch of things happening, and I want to let you know about a couple that are coming up very shortly, too. After worship today, of course, we'll have fellowship time in Fisk Hall and through Zoom, so you are welcome to join us for those. We'll also have our first Sunday visitors gathering in the parlor, which is just outside this room to the back and all the way to the left when you come to the hall. A couple of us will be around to be able to show you where that is. I will be one of those folks. And then beyond that, we'll also have 2 new member orientation sessions happening, one next week and another the following week. So the first one is just to kind of meet the minister and a couple of other people if you're curious about us. But the next 2 sessions are really about what you need to know in order to become members of the congregation. In addition, today, after all of our stuff is over, at 11:30 we'll be beginning a full circle food celebration and workshop, and that's going to happen in Fisk Hall. So it will happen as things are wrapping up from fellowship time. That is a continuation of our Harvest Festival and the beginning of our Green Sanctuary food sustainability and justice work. So there will be lunch provided and opportunities to learn about what it is to make food accessible, sustainable, just. You'll learn about food from beginning to end, from farm to compost. So I certainly hope that you will join us for that as well. Thanks.
If you need help finding your way to Fisk Hall for our fellowship hour and all those activities that are going to happen there today, for any member of the church, we'll be happy to guide you, Just look for someone wearing a Universalist Church name tag. I left mine in the place where I hang it after church. You can find the link for Zoom in your weekly news or our Breeze calendar. If you aren't getting the weekly news, please sign up for it on our website. And now, I invite you to take a moment to make your mobile phone silent, turn off your email and put away your keyboards, and settle in for worship.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred nights, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends holding hands, saying, how do you do? What they're really saying is, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
If your home chalice is available, please light yours as we're lighting ours here in the sanctuary. And we light our chalice to remind us of the heart of our community, the open heart that joyfully welcomes the new. New people, new ideas, new hopes, new ways of being. The challenging heart that will not just let us accept the world as it is, but encourages us to create a world that is always better than the one we live in today. The strong heart that doesn't require us to be or to believe the same in order to hold one another in community and in covenant. The loving heart that sees the possibility of good in all, that remains committed to living an interconnected life, that risks being broken because love is too powerful to refuse. We light this chalice because we are here once again to light the chalices of our own hearts with the flame that we share. Our opening hymn is number 207 in the gray hymnal. Number 207. Please rise in body or in spirit, here in the sanctuary or wherever you may be as we sing together. And please join me in speaking the words of our affirmation, our covenant. It's printed in your order of service and in the description online. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. As I was thinking about what I wanted to talk with you about for our Time for All Ages today, I had this moment where I realized I've been here a while now, and I don't know if I've already told you all of my stories. And if I have, some of you will just have to hear it again, I'm afraid. And if I haven't, well then fantastic. I did search to see if these particular words showed up anywhere in anything I've done for you before, and they haven't yet, but I'm getting to that stage in life where my stories just keep repeating themselves. One of the ways that I knew I loved the earth was because when I was a little kid, I made a weed garden. My parents at home always told me and all of my sisters, there are two things you need to know about God. One, God is love, and two, God doesn't throw anybody away, and neither do we. Pretty good rules, I think. And my brain, when I was a little kid, translated that not only into the people around me, but into the plants too. And so my parents had many gardens in our backyard. There was a vegetable garden and an herb garden. There was an asparagus patch that eventually turned into an asparagus forest at the end of the season. There was a strawberry patch, and all of these places needed weeding. So we spent a lot of time every summer pulling weeds out of the ground, and my parents would take them and put them into the mulch pile so that they could turn into compost, and then we could use them back in the garden again. But I kept hearing, God doesn't throw anyone away, and neither do we. Which meant that I looked at all those poor little weeds that were being thrown away, and my heart broke. Now, this house had an old sandbox and a new sandbox. And I like to play in the new sandbox. It was a good sandbox. But the old one, all of the little sand had disappeared, and all that was left were bigger bits of pieces of rock and some gravel. It wasn't much good for anything, but I thought it would be perfect for saving all of the weeds. So I would gather them up. The grasses and the little ones that smelled like chamomile, the dandelions, the ones that like to sprawl everywhere that my parents couldn't stand in the garden. And I took them all, one by one, or sometimes in great handfuls, and I would plant them in the sandbox, in the old sandbox. The sandbox that wasn't good for anything else, but it was perfect for the weeds. And I would grab my little watering can, and I would water each weed to make sure it had the best possible chance to thrive. And before long, I had a thriving weed garden. It was my garden. Now, the other ones were great because there was food, and there was yummy things to eat, and fruit, and French sorrel that was all tart in the herb garden. But the weed garden was mine. And it was the one where I got to take everybody that nobody else wanted and make sure they had a chance to grow and live too. Now, as I've gotten older, I realized that my weed garden probably generated a lot of seeds that went back into all of the other gardens and meant that there was more weeding to do. But I was able to have that sense of God doesn't throw anyone away, and neither do we. I had a chance to practice it myself. I had a place where I could love things that maybe nobody else would love quite the way that I did, but it was just perfect as it was. I would like to encourage you all to find your own weed gardens. What do you want to save? What do you want to plant? What do you want to give a home that hasn't had a home yet? And now, our children and their teachers will go off to their classes, and we will sing them out together with number 413 in the gray hymnal, Go Now in Peace. Our voluntary offering, the sharing of our resources for our shared work as a religious community, is a spiritual practice for us. By offering your time and talent and treasure, you help us serve the members, friends, and wider community of this congregation. And as part of that service, we share our general offering each week with organizations that do work in the world that bring us ever closer to becoming the beloved community. And so this month, we share our offering with Hands on Hartford. Founded in 1969 as Center City Churches, Hands on Hartford is a social service nonprofit organization. It serves Hartford's most economically challenged residents in the areas of food, housing, and health. They have a long-standing commitment to providing respectful and comprehensive services with help from volunteers and community partnerships. They address food insecurity. They provide safe, affordable housing and support services. And they provide a speakers bureau called Faces of Homelessness, who then go to other community groups and help educate people about homelessness by hearing from people who have experienced it or are experiencing it now. To give electronically to our offering, please use the QR codes on your order of service, the links in the description or online, and here in the sanctuary, our offering will now be gratefully received. May these gifts, so generously given, sustain the work that we do together, the life of this community, and the life of the wider world in which we are certainly a part. Thank you. Thank you. Please rise, in body or in spirit, as we speak our congregational reading. It's number 648 in the back of the gray hymnal. Number 648, it's called Beginners. I'll speak the words in Roman type, and together we'll speak the words in italics. But we have only begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How could we tire of hope? So much is in bud. How can desire fail? We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy. Only begun to envision how it might be to live as siblings with beast and flower, not as oppressors. Surely our river cannot already be hastening into the sea of non-being. Surely it cannot drag in the silt all that is innocent. Not yet. Not yet. There is too much broken that must be mended. Too much hurt that we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle. So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. So much is in blood. And let's join together in singing our doxology. It's in your order of service. Please be seated. As we begin our time of prayer and meditation today, I have something to share with you on behalf of Tracy W. She's had a couple of rough weeks here with some infections and some uncertainty, and it appears that she is now back in Yukon. They're thinking that she's fighting off some sort of virus and feeling okay, but the doctors are being very cautious given her medical history. Tracy and Beth want you to know that your prayers and love are much appreciated, and messages of support would be delightful. But at this point, not a lot of visits or too much intrusion, just, a text message or a card or an email. I'd also like to take this moment and ask us to think about the ways in which the world is changing. We see people in Iran calling for freedom, calling for liberation. We know that we have a vote coming up here in just a few days that will determine how the next few years go, and possibly more than that. In all the places around the world, Ukraine, for example, where people are striving to figure out what their future will be, this is a moment for us to recognize that we are in solidarity. We are in solidarity with people across the world who are trying to figure out what comes next, and we are doing the same. And so in this moment, I ask you to actually pray for our democracy, that we continue to use it and strengthen it. It is one of our principles as Unitarian Universalists. And I ask, too, that you think about how people might use their voices all over the world, and how we can support them in calling out for justice and mercy and love. Please join me in a moment of prayer and meditation. We long for this world to be a place where goodness prevails, where the contributions of all are recognized and valued, where no one is abused or diminished by another. We believe that this world is a place where through real and meaningful work, we can come ever closer to the ideals that we hold. Let us remember that we are not alone in this, and that if the world is in dire shape now, people have thought that before too. That hardships have come and gone, and that we have lived through it as humanity. Let us take comfort in the knowledge that these times may be uncertain, but uncertainty also offers possibility. Let our striving be to create a better world than the one we have now. To offer to each other and to those who come next more love, more hope, more help than we have found offered to ourselves. Let's join in a moment of stillness for the prayers unspoken within us. Whether in moments of stillness and reflection or activity and speaking aloud, let us rely on the spirit of life and love that exists within and among us, the community of support that we call into being together, this great mystery of being that spins us into awareness, finding strength to change the world and live in it with and for one another. May it be so. Amen.
Our first reading is from Animal, Vegetable, Miracle by Barbara Kingsolver. I'd asked for no presents. No presents, I said, really. To make everyone comfortable, we had to suggest an alternative. And it was inspired. A plant. The tiniest posy, anything would serve. And truthfully, while we'd put prodigious efforts into our vegetable garden and orchards, our front yard lay sorry and neglected. Anything people might bring to set into that ground would improve it. Thus began the plan for my half-century birthday garden. Higgledy-piggledy, fluorescent and spontaneous, like friendship itself. This is what my friends brought, dug from their own backyards, a division of a 50-year-old peony, irises, a wisteria vine, a spicy sweet shrub, bee balm, hostas, datura, lilies, and a flowering vine whose name none of us knows. Rosemary and sage, blueberry and raspberry, fountain grass, blue sweetgrass, sunshine-colored roses, blue and white columbines, scarlet poppies, butterfly bush, and sunset echinacea. The color scheme of my garden is Crayola. Oh, well, goodness, I said as I received each of these botanical gifts. Well, look at that. I thanked my parents for having me, thanked the farmers for the food, thanked family and friends for the music, the dancing, the miles traveled, and the stunning good luck of having them all in my life. But I did not say thank you for a plant. My garden lives. Our second reading is by the Reverend Jennifer Nordstrom in Justice on Earth, a book by Unitarian Universalists about environmental justice and faith. My own work for justice is grounded in my faith, in my deep love for humanity, non-human beings, and the earth. The core of my being is connected to the larger systems of life, and I feel them tug at me to be part of moving in my own life, my community and humanity back toward right relationship. This tug, this call of the deep to the well of my own soul is what brings me back to justice work when I am tired, bored, or despairing. Over the years, I have found that in order to continue the work, I need to return to my source, love and commitment to life, no matter the result. My faith inspires and grounds my work for justice, and it cannot be separated from that work any more than the pieces of my identity can be separated from one another.
I was at a concert recently, and I heard a soloist sing a grown-up version of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. I suspect some of you know this song, whether you've heard it in a childhood moment or somewhere along the way. And it sent me right back to the Sunday school and the church that I grew up in, and I could sing along with all of the lyrics. He's got the whole world. You and me, brother, you and me, sister, the little itty-bitty baby. And then there were words that came along that I had forgotten until I heard them again. He's got the wind and the rain, the sun and the moon, the birds and the bees, the flowers and the trees. I hadn't remembered that that was part of that song, but it made me really happy to know that it was, because it matched who I remember being as a kid, the one who planted the weed garden, for example. When I was a little kid, church was an important part of my life, but so was the land that we lived on and where I played. If you've been around for a while, you've heard me describe this little Garden of Eden property, maybe a quarter of an acre at absolute most, but filled with beauty and trees to climb and good things to eat all seasons long. I thought about the food we had at home, the bread my mother baked, the things that we canned. It made me think about the creek nearby where I played, even though we weren't supposed to because it was muddy and dirty and nobody knew exactly what lived down there. And even if I came home smelling of algae, finding crawfish and playing with the little minnows was an awful lot of fun. There were orchards and farmers' fields. And at some point, my parents even took me to local quarries to dig through the gravel that was left behind to look for fossils and agates. When I was a kid, the world was not just the place where things happened, but it was a place of beauty and joy and companionship. And it was a place where I got to take care of things, like my weeds. And so now that I am turning 50 soon and reflecting back on those moments, this passage from Barbara Kingsolver really speaks to me. Thus began the plan for my half-century birthday garden. Higgledy-piggledy, fluorescent and spontaneous like friendship itself. Her friends brought her everything that they could dig up from their own gardens. This wisteria vine, knowing what wisteria does, I bet it wasn't a vine so much as a sucker that they really needed to get out of their own garden. The bee balm that was taking over and spreading too far. All these things looking to end up in somebody's space and be loved. The color scheme of my garden, she writes, is Crayola. I learned to love the earth because it was my place. I felt at home there. I came to love it like I loved my playpen and my blankets and my stuffed animals. I loved it like I loved my bedroom, a place where I could close the door and have my space. And while out in the world I couldn't close a door, I always felt like I had my space there too. And so this is how I learned to love the earth at the earliest. I'm hoping that you are finding yourselves thinking about how you too found a way to love the earth as you were children. And if you weren't yet, do it now. What was it when you were young? What was it that captured your imagination or your delight, your sense of deliciousness or joy about the world in which we live? Was it a plant? Some animals? A person who loved the earth especially well? A place? I went on to learn to love the earth in other ways, and I hope you did too. When I was in school, what captured me next was science. When I was little, probably second grade or so, I was convinced that I was going to become a marine biologist when I grew up. I remember having a dream when I was a little kid about being underwater and being able to breathe and walk around and spend time with fish and coral and see the world from a completely different place. And something about that dream held me and made me wonder, what would it be like to spend time underwater? And then as time went on, marine biology, maybe, maybe not. Other things captured my interests too. I found myself in high school studying ecology, taking careful counts of what was happening in just a square foot of prairie, learning about cycles of oxygen and carbon dioxide and water and how we are part of all of that. I did more gardening. I learned about how things grow and thrive. I learned systems like permaculture. And if you ever want to talk to me about something that I'll get up on a soapbox about and probably never stop, just ask me about permaculture. But this fascination for how does it work was another way for me to love the earth and all of creation too. And now I'm still caught up in it. When I see these images from telescopes, the Webb that is out in space taking pictures with a clarity that we've never seen before, it helps me remember to love this earth just as I wonder about what all the other ones out there are like. I also look at pictures that come from electron microscopes. These things where you get to see an ant's head as though it was the size of our own. What crystals look like when they are very, very small. And those images, too, draw me in. They make me wonder. And they help me to learn to love the earth again for other new ways in which it exists. I have come to understand the earth in new ways, to be in awe of its beauty and its intricacy. I've learned to be part of its systems, and I have discovered that I am only a small part of them as well. And so I wonder for all of you, as you grew up, as you moved through, what else helped you love the earth? How might science or practice or knowledge, discovery, helped you to find your place in this wonderful, remarkable, miraculous planet that we live on? See if you can remember even just one thing, one little fact, or one study that you might have done. And so I went on to college and I studied biology because this love of the earth would not let me go. And while I was there, I discovered another spiritual path. I had grown up Lutheran, very Christian, but in a family that really appreciated all of creation. And then I discovered that I was wondering about other ways of understanding spirituality. And so I found myself falling in with a group of people who, from various perspectives, had an earth-centered or creation-centered spirituality. Some of them were Wiccan, some of them were general pagans, some of them were Episcopalian, one was Hindu, but we all looked at the world and said, this place matters so much, and we shared the ways in which we loved it together. And so I found myself becoming really curious about a part of my heritage, about the Celtic side of my heritage, the Irish side, and then learned a little bit about Druidry. The ancient Druids, not that there's a lot of great information, but about contemporary ones as well. And that fascinated me. There are people whose entire spiritual practice and focus is this life, this world. And there are spaces and ways in which I could do that too. Whether through folklore or music, through spiritual practice, I came to love the earth as a divine creation that I could be in relationship with. The earth itself as a spiritual teacher, watching what the ecology is and does, watching how plants grow, how animals survive, and thinking about that metaphorically to teach me something about my own life too. In a lot of ways, the world for me became a temple without walls, but filled with the sacredness of so many different ways of being. In time, I actually joined a Druid organization because it nurtured my spirituality in a way that I didn't find anywhere else. And interestingly enough, it's a lot like Unitarian Universalism. People believe all sorts of different things about how the universe works. In this group, there are Christian Druids and atheist Druids. There are Jewish Druids and Hindu and Muslim Druids. There are pagan Druids and Buddhist Druids and Taoist Druids and scientific Druids. People of all kinds, much like this space. And in those spaces, I discovered that my spiritual self also loved the earth. And so I wonder for you, what has helped your spiritual self to love the earth? What spiritual practices have connected you with that which is beyond yourself, right here, right around you? What sermons have you heard, or classes have you taken, meditations you have meditated, or actions you have done? What about your own personal spiritual life has connected you to this incredible place, this marvelous planet? And of course, there's Unitarian Universalism. And this is the place where my need for a religious community and the love of the earth connect. As you use "we agree" with Cornel West, that justice is what love looks like in public when love is turned into action. And so in that way, we have our seventh principle that explicitly states that the earth is part of our covenant, our sacred promises to one another and to existence itself. We also have a green sanctuary ministry across our denomination, but particularly here in this congregation too. It's a denominational program that helps us live into that seventh principle promise as congregations and as a whole people. And so, of course, this weekend's programming about food, the potluck, and the film on Friday night, Today's Full Circle workshop, all of that is just one more wonderful way that we can pay attention to these promises and make them real. Jennifer Nordstrom takes it down to the very foundation. Better yet, not the foundation, but the soil, the very fertile soil in which this part of our existence is built. She writes, "My own work for justice is grounded in my faith, in my deep love for humanity, non-human beings, and the earth. The core of my being is connected to the larger systems of life. Over the years, I have found that in order to continue the work, I need to return to my source, love and commitment to life, no matter the result." And so I wonder for you, how has Unitarian Universalism helped you to love the earth? We are in a time now, and I don't just mean this weekend where we're paying attention to it here at the church, but we are in a time now where our love of and determination to care for, to protect the earth is not just a nice thing. It's not just the good, progressive, or liberal thing to do. It's actually an imperative. It is an essential act for each of us to do what we can and to encourage leaders and businesses, farmers and restaurants, park services, anyone and everyone we can get to listen, to think about how to love the earth and therefore to treat it better than we do right this moment. We often think about this in terms of what will it be like for the next generation or 2 or 7? And that is an essential question. But for each of us, the question of what does love mean? If I love something, what is my responsibility to it? This is a question for our own hearts. I go back to what my parents said. God doesn't throw anyone away, and neither do we. And for me, that translates into I don't throw this earth away or any part of it. Not even a weed. I hope that you have learned to love the earth in ways that make you want to protect it, to love it all, even perhaps the parts that might otherwise seem a little unlovable, to find ways to make your actions into what love looks like in public, made real. So please join us today and every day as we do our best to love the earth and make that into something tangible, something real. May it be so. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 407 in the gray hymnal. Number 407, we're going to sit at the welcome table, and I hope that we recognize that the welcome table is this earth on which we live. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together.
Thank
Let's join together in speaking our unison benediction. It's in your order of service or in the description online. Engage with the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Please be seated and remain for our postlude, and then join us for fellowship or our visitors' time and 11:30, the full circle lunch and workshop.
Northern lights in our skies, plants that grow and open your mind, things that swim with the neon glow, how we all got here, nobody knows. These are real things, these are real. Did I know you once in another life? Are we here just once or a billion times? Well, I wish I knew, but it doesn't matter, 'cause you're here right now, and I know what I feel, and these are real. And then there is